where we're using the unit circle to answer these questions. All right. So starting with 21. And actually, if you have not color-coded your unit circle, and when I say color-coded, I mean like draw a line. I don't know if it'll let me do it on this PDF. Let me see. I don't think it'll let me just pre-write on top of this, unfortunately. Oh, it might actually. Let's see. Oh, okay. I can do this. Okay, so I'm going to color code. You can see I'm doing all of the 60-degree reference angles in one color. Now, I don't know if it'll let me switch my color here. Oh, it will let me. Okay. It'll just take me a minute. Sorry. I'm going to do 3 different colors on here. If you have not color coded yours, I would recommend to you, I would recommend you do the same thing. And then I'll do all the 45s in a different color. All right, and then all the 30s in a third color. Okay, so that'll just make it a little easier to identify our common reference angles when we're looking at the values here. Okay, so now we're going to go through and we're going to find the angle listed, or if it's not an angle on the unit circle, we're going to find where it's coterminal to. Which of these terminal sides on the unit circle is coterminal with it. Oops. All right, so negative pi 6. Remember, negative means that I am going in the clockwise direction. So from 0, that's going down. Okay, and I'm going 1 pi 6. So pi 6, those are the yellow highlighted ones. So I'm just going to go down to that 1 pi 6. So this is at 11 pi 6. That's the same point as if I go negative 1 pi 6. Does everybody agree with that? So this is where I'm looking on my unit circle, and I want to know what is cosine. You have to remember that on your unit circle, X and Y correspond to cosine and sine. So X is cosine. And Y is the sine value. So when it says they want cosine there, they want the X value. So at this point, the X value is square root of 3 over 2. And that's my answer. Number 22 wants sine at 18 pi fourths. 18 pi fourths is not on my unit circle, but I know all of the pi fourths reference angles are these that I highlighted in green, right? So it's going to end up being at one of those as long as this is reduced. This does not happen to be completely reduced. I can reduce this sum, or I could reduce it. So let me go ahead and reduce. What is 18 fourths reduced to? 9. So instead of 18 pi fourths, I'm going to rewrite that as 9 pi halves. Okay, that's still not on my unit circle, but notice halves, those are the quadrantals. Those are the ones where you're on the X or Y axis. Okay, so if I go around a full circle, that would be 4 pi halves, wouldn't it? 2 pi would be 4 halves. So if I did another full circle, that would be 8 halves. And then I would have to go one more to get to 9. So one more half would put me there. So visually, if you want to see what's happening, we're going 2 pi, 4 pi, and then another half to put me here. If it helps you to change this to a mixed number, 2 goes into 9 4 times with 1 left over. So we went 4.5 pi. So we went 4 pi was 2 circles, and then the half pi put us here. Does that make sense? So think of that however you want. So we're looking right here on the unit circle, and they want to know sine. Sine is the y value. So what's my answer here? It's 1. So the answer there was root 3 over 2. The answer here is 1. This was just me rewriting the angle. I reduced it, and then if you want to change it to a mixed number, you can, if that's helpful for you. Okay, but you just have to be able to figure out where on this unit circle is this comparable to? What is it coterminal to? And in this case, it was pi halves. All right, 23 wants tangent at 225. So 225, that's on our unit circle. That's here, the green reference angle in quadrant 3. Okay, so tangent here is 1. At a 45-degree reference angle, tangent is always 1. And in quadrant 3, tangent's positive. So it's positive 1. Okay, now number 24 wants sine at negative 270. So this is another one that we're going in the negative direction. So if I'm going negative, this would be negative 90, negative 180, negative 270. Okay, if you need that visual, you can draw it on here, but you're going this way, 270 degrees in the negative direction. So we're looking here at the top of our unit circle. What is sine there? Also 1. So far, so good? Okay, so that was some basic sine, cosine, tangent. Okay, oh, here's one more tangent before we get into some of the reciprocals. Okay, 7 pi thirds. That's not on my unit circle, but if it helps you, you could change it to a mixed number. How many times does 3 go into 7? Twice with 1 left over, right? If it helps you to rewrite this as a mixed number, you can. So 2 pi, that's a full circle, and then 1/3 pi more. So the full circle, again, I'll give you another visual. The full circle and 1/3 more puts me here at 60 degrees at pi thirds. So it's coterminal to this, and they want to know tangent there. What is tangent at a pi third reference angle? Square root of 3. All right, now they start getting a little trickier because that's cotangent, cosecant, secant. Those are reciprocal functions. Okay, so we have to figure out our angle, and then we have to do a reciprocal. Okay, what is tangent, or excuse me, cotangent, the reciprocal of? Tangent. So once we find this angle, we're actually going to ask what tangent is and then get the reciprocal. Okay, now this angle can be reduced. 24 divided by 6, that's a whole number. What is that? So this is just 4 pi, isn't it? Doesn't that reduce to 4 pi? Okay, so let's ask ourselves, what's tangent at 4 pi? So 4 pi would be 2 full circles, right? So here on the right side of the circle, tangent, and my image is cut off, but you should see it on yours. Tangent is 0. Well, if tangent is 0, what would cotangent be? What did we talk about the reciprocal of 0 is? Tangent is 0 here because it's y divided by x. 0 divided by 1 is 0. If I flipped that, it would be 1 over 0, which you cannot divide by 0. That is undefined. Very good. So in the terms of our trig values around the unit circle, 0 and undefined are reciprocals. All right, 27 wants cosecant at 120. So 120 degrees, that's in quadrant 2. That's my 60-degree reference angle, this one in pink. Okay, cosecant. Well, what is cosecant the reciprocal of? Sine. So I'm going to first ask myself, what's sine at 120? Yeah, sine is the y value, so root 3 over 2. So I want the reciprocal of that. So I'm going to flip it, and it's going to become 2 over root 3. Now, we don't leave answers in this format with the radical in the denominator. So remember your rationalizing process, you multiply by the radical you're trying to get rid of. So it moves it to the numerator, and my denominator now is just 3. (28) wants secant at 135. What is secant the reciprocal of? Cosine. 135 is a nice simple angle from the unit circle. So it's right here, the green highlighted one in quadrant 2, 135 degrees. Cosine here is what? Good. Cosine's negative in this quadrant. It's the x here. Okay, so if I flip that and rationalize, remember how we talked about recognizing reciprocals when you have a radical over the number that's in the radical? If you can remember the reciprocals, it'll save you some time from having to rationalize and simplify. Does anybody remember what that would just come out to once I flip and rationalize? Because it's not 2 over 2, it's square root of 2 over 2. So it's not anything, it's not over itself. Okay, I'm going to do it this one time to refresh your memory. So if I flip this, and then I have to rationalize. Ooh. I'm multiplying by root 2. I end up with negative root 2 over 2, or excuse me, negative 2 times root 2 over 2. And then what happens to those 2's? So you just really end up with negative root 2. So rather than having to go through that process every time, and you may want to add this to your unit circle or something somewhere. Root 2 over 2. The reciprocal is just root 2. We could make a whole little refresher list here. Oh my, it's moving all of my. Let's see, turn that off. Close this. Open it back up. Oh, it didn't save that last little bit of work. So let me add that back in. You rationalized. And simplified and got it to just be negative root 2. And that was the answer there. So what I would suggest is somewhere, it could be on the back with the unit circle. Here, let me make this full. Let me see where there's some space where you might be able to do this. Yeah, I'd probably just do it on the back with the unit circle somewhere and make a list of reciprocals. So the reciprocal of 0, we said was undefined. And now we're saying the reciprocal of square root of 2 over 2 is just square root of 2. So it would work the same with square root of 3 over 3, right? What would its reciprocal be? Just square root of 3. Another one, put it above here because I'm running out of room. Root 3 over 2 is one of our values on the unit circle. We did the work up there. When we found the reciprocal, it ended up being 2 root 3 over 3. So those are the reciprocals I would jot down if I were you. Now, there are more, but I think they're more straightforward. What's the reciprocal of 1? If I have 1 as a fraction, it's 1 over 1, right? If I flip it, what is it? Still 1. So the reciprocal of 1 is 1, if you want to add that. What's the reciprocal of 1/2? 2. So the reciprocal of 1 and the reciprocal of 1/2, those are more straightforward. It's these with the radicals or the 0 becoming undefined. Those are the ones that are a little trickier that I would jot down somewhere to help you when you're studying. Okay, if you can memorize those, fantastic. Maybe make some flashcards or something, because it'll just save you the time of rationalizing pretty often. All right, so now we're to number 29. They want sine at negative pi. Well, negative pi would end up in the same place as pi, wouldn't it? It's half a circle. It's just coming from the negative direction. Okay, so it still puts me here at the same point. And they want to know, what is sine here at this point? 0. Sine is the y value. Okay, tangent at 7 pi halves. If you want to change it to a mixed number, go for it. 7 pi halves, 2 goes into 7 3 times with 1 left over, right? So 7 halves, that's the same thing as 3 1/2. So thinking about your unit circle, if I went around a full circle, that's 2 pi, another half circle, that's 3 pi, and then I need another half pi, which would put me here. So it'd put me on the negative side here of the y-axis. So the bottom of my unit circle is where I'm looking. And they're asking for tangent. What's tangent down there? Undefined. Okay, 31 wants cotangent at negative 11 pi thirds. Okay, again, if it helps you change to a mixed number, do that. You do not have to, though, if you can understand counting with the improper fraction. Okay, so I could replace 11 thirds with 3 2/3. Y'all agree? 3 goes into 11 3 times to give me 9. So that would leave me 2 to get to 11. So I'm going to replace that. So we're going in the negative direction. 3 pi and then 2/3 pi more. So in the negative direction, 2 pi is a full circle. Another pi would be 3 pi. And then 2/3 pi. So 1, 2. So it's going to put me here in quadrant 1 at the pi thirds reference angle. So that's where the pink is here on my unit circle. So at this point, what is cotangent? Tangent is square root of 3. What did we say the reciprocal of that is? If tangent at pi thirds is root 3, what's cotangent at that coterminal angle? Root 3 over 3. All right, 720. Oh, yes, good catch. Oh, no. The angle is negative. The value here in quadrant 1 is positive. We got to the angle going in the negative direction. Just because the angle is negative does not mean your trig value is negative. The trig value being positive or negative, remember, look at what, all of them are positive in quadrant 1, sine in 2, tangent in 3, cosine in 4. Where's 720 degrees? Where does that put you? 360 is a full circle. What's another, how do I get to 720? Another 360, right? So that's 2 full circles. So this is the point where I'm looking on the unit circle. So we're on the right edge of the unit circle, and they want to know cosine. What is it? Yeah, it's the x. It's 1. All right, cotangent. So this is another one where I'm going to ask myself, okay, what about tangent? And then I flip it. So first I need to find 11 pi fourths. If it helps you to change it to a mixed number, let's do it. 4 goes into 11 twice to give me 8, and that would leave me 3 left over. So 2 3/4 pi if you want to change it from an improper to a mixed. So 2 pi is a full circle, and then 3 pi fourths more. So a full circle, and then 3 pi fourths puts me here on this green terminal side in quadrant 2. So at this point, that's where I'm looking. Tangent, I'm going to just put 3 pi fourths because that's what it's coterminal to. Tangent there is -1. So what would cotangent be? What's the reciprocal of -1? It would be -1. All right, here's a nice straightforward one. Cosine at 3π4. 3π4, that's that same green terminal side there we were just at. What's cosine? -√2/2. All right, 35 secant at -4π3. So we're going in the negative direction. Pay attention to that. 4π3. In the positive direction, 4π3 is down here because you're going to the third pink line that you've drawn. So in the negative direction, that would put you up here in quadrant 2 at the pink line. Okay. So that's that angle, -4π3 is coterminal with +2π3, and secant is the reciprocal of cosine. So I'm going to ask myself, what's cosine at that coterminal angle? Cosine there is -½ So what would the reciprocal of that be? -2. All right, last but not least, cosecant at 5π. I'm going to ask myself, where is 5π? If I go 2, that's a full circle. 4, that's another full circle. So 5 puts me here on the left edge of the unit circle. They're asking for cosecant, which cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. What's sine at pi? Sine here is 0. So what's the reciprocal? Nope. What did we say the reciprocal of 0 is? Undefined. Okay, so we got several 1s, some undefines, a 0, a -2, a √3/2, a -√2. Lots of different types of answers here. That is similar to what was on your quiz, what was in that last Delta Math that you did. So you've had lots of practice on this. If you feel like you need more, remember to go to the links to resources on our It's Learning page. I'm going to just point it out to you one last time. Oh, great. Yeah, sign in. So resources, oh, this is the wrong class, precal. Unit 3, and then there's this links to resources. You can do just rating and degree practice, learning the unit circle, and then unit circle practice would be more of actually practicing the coordinates and the trig values there. Okay, so there's a few different links for games or quiz. On a Quizlet, you can play games or do matching or make flashcards. So there's lots of ways to practice. You can always go back into the Delta Math and do more than is required by the assignment. You can keep continuing to practice as much as you want. All right. So for the parts of the review we didn't get to, I will have the videos posted. So there's a total of 2 videos for this review.